Let's go! All right, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, every other social media platform possible. What is going on? It is Zaya here from Zaya&TheSteelers, back with another episode of Zaya&TheSteelers. We are on episode 24, and got to start with the prerequisites. Of course, we're up to 92 subscribers, 8 away from 100. To be honest, you know, if we're feeling great, there's a small chance with the growth, there's a small chance we'll be at 100 before this video comes out. Thank you guys. But if this is your first time on the channel and you enjoy Steelers content and you enjoy talking about football, hit that subscribe button. You know, we're getting close. We're climbing. I also wanted to look at some comments, but really, a big overall thank you to everybody. If you see on the right here, I'm pulling down my notifications. Like, they're just kind of flying in, man. We're getting comments. We're getting subs. Bruh, it's crazy, honestly. It's really crazy. And I want to just show, I want to spotlight one comment. Because there has been a bunch, 81 likes on this bad boy, geez Louise. There has been a bunch, but there's one comment that I even pinned that I just kind of think sums up everything. Love what you do. I'm a lifelong Steelers fan. I'm 53 and can't remember when the last time I was this excited. So let's get a gunshot for Ryan Warmack, 53 years of life. 53, Kendra Green's number. Not the best time to be 53. However, a few years ago, 53 was a solid number. So, I mean, it happens, but Ryan, thank you. Everybody, thank you. I love talking about the Steelers. I love doing this, and so to see the growth, to see the positive support really helps. Anyways, though, just as fast as it came, the preseason is over, and we are once again left in a boat of no football. It's crazy how fast the preseason went by, right? It was like we were dying for football. We were dying for action, and now it's over just like that. But we do have some things to talk about from the preseason. There's still, I believe, 2 weeks now. So, like, obviously today is Sunday, tomorrow is Monday when you're seeing this. And then next Sunday, I believe the regular season still isn't, you know, started yet. Maybe there's one game. But then the following Sunday after that is when games actually start to kick off. Regular season starts. And once again, overall, I am very excited. Thank you all to everybody who's been tuning out to these videos. Thank you everybody who's been subscribing to the channel, checking us out. But let's get into it. So starting out, as you can see, preseason thoughts. I wanted to kind of pull up each game here because I'm not just going to exactly box score read this whole time. But I did want to pull up the games here to just kind of quickly take us through each game and what happened and really what things we can be excited for and what players kind of stood out to me. And this website is pretty horrible. Here we go. I was trying to find the box score. This website stinks, though. So starting out, we played the Buccaneers first game of the year, and we looked really good. There was only the one drive on offense, and this was the drive where, or I'm sorry, the one drive with the first team. This was the drive where George Pickens caught that touchdown and kind of took it all the way himself, kind of took it like 20-plus yards. And this was our first taste at, you know, what we saw for the rest of the preseason. Our first taste at, who knows, man, maybe a solid offense. Who knows, an offense who can move the football, an offense that doesn't have to rely on big Boswell number 9 as the jersey is fading. This is an old one, but you can just see, man, it's gone through it. We don't have to rely on Boswell hitting these field goals because we've been moving the ball. And so Kenny Pickett, he played pretty good, 6 for 7. Mason Rudolph, pretty good in this game, 7 for 12. I'm just seeing that, like, you know, live. And then, you know, we got Calvin Austin. I'm going to kind of go through here, just quickly name players. Calvin Austin, I think, is someone who really showed out in this preseason. Anthony McFarland as well. But Calvin Austin is somebody who, of course, we drafted him last year, and he spent a lot of time hurt. He spent the whole season hurt last year. And so we really didn't get to see him. But the stuff before, like this time last year, maybe a little even before this time last year, but last year in the preseason training camp era, Calvin Austin was lighting shit up. And if you guys remember when we got Chase Claypool a few years ago in the draft, like, I don't know if you remember the training camp preseason time around then, but when we got Chase Claypool, all the stuff coming out was like, yo, Chase Claypool is a dog. Chase Claypool is like miles better than what we thought. And granted, that season it worked out, and then, you know, following that, it didn't really end up working out and blah, 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 blah. Granted, that happened. But all that to say, Calvin Austin had a similar kind of aura surrounding him, a similar kind of like, yo, do you guys see this Calvin Austin guy? Like, this is crazy. Like, it was like that last year. And then coming into this year, I think everybody, because we were aware of it, it kind of, you know, fell off a little bit. But the actual on-field performance and all that was beautiful. Calvin Austin looks like a player. He looks like a dog. And he's going to be someone who I think can really transform our offense into, just the worst thing in the world to maybe even the best thing in the world, from worst to first. I think we have a real chance at that. If there was like a most improved phase of a team, like if there was a most improved phase of a team award, I think our offense would be in contention. Like how there's a comeback player, I think our offense is coming back from the dead. And Calvin Austin is a huge piece of that. Looking below him, Anthony McFarland. I'm going to zoom this in because I feel like this is super far for you guys. Looking below him, Anthony McFarland. Anthony McFarland earned that third string running back spot. Honestly, like I don't know what to say about this. This is kind of a crazy situation, like because it's Anthony McFarland. No disrespect, but Anthony McFarland on a different team with more opportunity, on a team that didn't have Naj and Jaylen Warren, maybe get something done. Now, I don't want to, because the elephant in the room, Anthony McFarland, I believe, was our second string running back last year, or, fighting for it, and then Jaylen Warren beat him out last year. And then Jaylen Warren continued to improve this year, and Naj continued to improve this year, and Anthony McFarland is just kind of, sitting on the out. So, like, not to say you trade Anthony McFarland to random Team X that he turns into fucking Warren Sapp. He turns into Emmett Smith or something, not to say that. But I think Anthony McFarland has, a real shot at, being a real shot of contributing for our team. And once again, we've seen him in the preseason. He's been a preseason demon, and he did his thing, and he showed enough to make the team. So shout out to him. Somebody else I want to kind of look at now, kind of skipping down here, is Connor Hayward, because truthfully, I don't think I've really ever talked about Connor Hayward in depth as much, besides the touchdown at Michigan State he had against Pitt in the bowl game, because I keep going back to that play because I did see it happen live. And now we have Connor Hayward, so I will always bring that up. And that touchdown really hurt at the time. But Connor Hayward, someone who played really solid in this preseason. I don't think necessarily in this game, but if we look at the Falcons game, I think Connor Hayward, you can see just right here from the box score scoring summary thing, Connor Hayward did his thing. And so Connor Hayward, to me, is somebody who I think really showed out in this preseason. I can't find his actual thing. Go me. He's somebody who I think really showed out in this preseason. I think he's someone who really showed more that of course, he's Cam Hayward's brother, but, he can do a lot of things for us on offense. We put him at fullback, he'll block. We line him up at tight end, he'll block. We line him up at tight end, running back, he'll go out, catch a pass. We line him up behind quarterback, he'll maybe catch a run or take a run, He's I saw somebody say he's a Swiss Army knife. Like, that's exactly what Connor Hayward is, a Swiss Army knife. And, we think about our fullbacks from the past. We had Rosie Nix, who I think was, super solid for us. When we had Rosie Nix, we also had, a great offensive line as a whole. But when we had Rosie Nix, man, we were running the ball well. And we look a little bit forward to Derek Watt, and it was, a little bit of falling off. But whenever Derek Watt got in there, it seemed like we were going to try to establish the run. It seemed like we were going to try to ground and pound when Derek Watt was out there, and then maybe, trick a screen to him or something. And then Connor Hayward, he steps in. And to me, personally, maybe I'm forgetting stuff. Maybe last season and seasons before it was just bad. But I feel like when we have a fullback in there, like when we're a team that's throwing our fullback out there, we've been good. Like when we have a fullback out there playing for us and run blocking for us, when we have a solid presence out there, we've been a good team. I feel like it has been that. It's always been like that. And so Connor Hayward, he's stepping up. Next, looking at Gunnar Olszewski next, I don't think he necessarily had, play after play after play that stood out, but he was somebody who was on a lot of first-team offense. He was somebody who, seemed like a contributor for us. And so I think Gunnar Olszewski is someone who, depending on, I got to look at the final roster here, and I'll pull it up in a second, but depending on some things, I think Gunnar Olszewski is someone who's made the team. And I won't forget about that drop punt he had week 2 against New England last year. I think a lot of people have forgotten, but I won't forget about it. And so maybe I'm not like the happiest about it, but Gunnar's doing his thing. He's out here. And once again, he played a lot on the first team offense, and our first team offense was dogging in the preseason. And so if it ain't broke, don't fix it, And so Gunnar Olszewski, if Gunnar Olszewski has to make the team for us to be this successful offense, then he has to make the team and cut whoever it takes. But I will say I do remember that drop punt, and Gunnar Olszewski, Ryan Switzer, like this era of random punt return guy. Like I'm kind of over it. Hopefully Calvin Austin's taking over. But we'll see. Gunnar Olszewski, Ryan Switzer, Steven Sims, Ray McLeod. Like these are just all people we've picked up and got rid of, like, after a year or two. And so I hope maybe Gunnar can become that consistent guy. We'll see. But it is what it is. Next, Darnell Washington. Let me just gunshot already. I'm gonna just keep going. Darnell Washington. Listen, I was a casual. Listen, I knew nothing really about Darnell Washington going into the draft besides random mock draft stuff. Everybody told me this guy really is a freak of nature athlete. Everybody told me he's like, this like 6'5" tight end guy who's blocking and really doing his thing out there, right? And you can hear that, and you can be like, all right, information process, like I got it. He blocks good, fam. Darnell Washington blocks very good. Darnell Washington is out here. Darnell Washington, from what we saw in the preseason, is a game changer, and we are going to run the hell out of the football this year, guys. Like, I don't think you understand, and I'm kind of skipping around here, but we had a lot of positives too. Like I mentioned, Calvin Austin, Gunnar Olszewski. We had a lot of positives in the passing game, and that's just icing on the cake. But I really think our identity, I really think what we're trying to do based on picks, based on free agency acquisitions, like I really think we're just gonna try to run you out of the football game. I really think we're just gonna grind you out. And then Kenny Pickett gonna play action, take you over the top. George Pickens, 70-yard touchdown. Pickett to Pickens! I think that's what's gonna happen. And then for 90% of the other game, like 90% of the time, Najee is just gonna run it down your throat. And then Jalen Warren's gonna come flying in, 60-yard touchdown to Jalen Warren. Like I really think that's what our offense has the potential to do. And Darnell Washington, going all the way back to him, Darnell Washington, I think is going to be a huge piece of that. And so shout out to Omar Khan again. Shout out to Mike Tomlin just for being there. Shout out to God, I guess. I don't know, but like, thank God we got Darnell Washington, man, because he's been a piece for us. Pat Freiermuth as well. He caught that touchdown in the Bills game. He played well. I mean, he's a guy though, so like we really don't got to get into Pat Freiermuth, but he did play well. Zach Gentry, someone we will talk about. I think Zach Gentry may be on the outside looking in. Once again, we'll talk about Zach, but I mentioned this very, very early, like on my return back to YouTube and my return back to these videos. I mentioned Zach Gentry as somebody who I really haven't named, but he's played solid for us. But the problem is now we have Darnell Washington, who exactly isn't a pass catching guy. I think he has the ability to do that, but right now he's not like this receiving kind of guy. He's really elite in the run department, and so we're going to need him. We took him with a fourth or a fifth. We're going to need Darnell Washington, right? So he's on the team, like, unless this dude loses his hands tomorrow, Darnell Washington is likely on the team. So there's him. And then Pat Freiermuth, of course, Pat Freiermuth is going to be on the team. And then the real kind of spooky situation, the real caveat is going back up to Swiss Army knife type beat Connor Hayward. He can be a tight end, but he can also be a fullback. He can also be a running back, like depending on what they list Connor, because he is, I believe, a listed tight end. And so with that said, we would have now 4 tight ends on the roster if you take into account Zach Gentry. Now, Zach Gentry, Connor Hayward, who is more important for our team? I think this comes down to a heads or tails type decision. I think this is a apples and oranges kind of thing. But I will say, my take, Connor Hayward can do a lot of things for us. Now, I don't want to sleep on Zach Gentry because I spent all these episodes sleeping on Zach Gentry and never mentioning him, and now we finally get to mention him, and here I am cutting him. But, I mean, it is what it is. If I'm sleeping on Zach Gentry, let me know. In the passing game and in key third down moments, we've gone to Zach Gentry, and Zach Gentry, has done solid for us. And I've said in an episode that I wanted another team to sign Zach Gentry. I wanted another team to give him an opportunity because he ended up coming back to us for no money. And so I wanted Zach to get that chance, and he didn't get that chance, and now we have him back. And now Darnell Washington is literally pancaking real defensive linemen as a tight end. And then Connor Hayward is faking the block, running a route, and then taking it 3 more yards, and then also getting a handoff and doing things with that. Like, Connor Hayward is doing so much for us. And so with that said, we will see about Zach Gentry. I think it is going to come down to how people are listed on the depth chart. It's going to come down to roster spots, of course. But Zach Gentry, to me, is a solid player. Zach Gentry if he does get cut, should be picked up by another team or maybe even our practice squad. But I think even the practice squad is too disrespectful or whatever for Zach Gentry, because this is a guy who's been in the league, when called upon, has done his thing. And so if anybody's looking for a tight end and you have a second or third round pick you're willing to part ways with, call me when you get lost. Give me a call, because I can get you a tight end who's like that, So shout out to Zach Gentry. Kicking, I got the Boswell jersey on. BT Potter, I believe, cut from the team at this moment. But BT Potter, he was lighting it up. So shout out to him. Braden Mann, I believe maybe he got cut or not. Maybe him or who's our other punter? I can't think of our other punter's name right now. Him and who's it? Presley Harvin. I almost cut it. It was almost long enough for a cut, but Presley Harvin, that's the guy. Brandon Mann and Presley Harvin, I really don't know. I believe Presley Harvin's probably just gonna make the team just cause. So I mean that's cool. Now going down to the defense though, this is really where, look at all these people who played. This is really where things get down to business. So Marcus Golden showed out. Quan Alexander showed out. Nick Kwiatkowski. I didn't really say Nick Kwiatkowski, but it is what it is. And this is just the one game. Layden Roberts, there's a play where Layden Roberts gets a tackle in the backfield on a run. Like, that's huge. We need Layden Roberts to continue making plays like that. The mix of Layden, Quan Alexander, and Cole Holcomb, the mix of these guys has been fantastic. It's been much better than I thought. I've said over and over that I was sleeping on Cole Holcomb specifically. But Layden Roberts, you're somebody who I wasn't really in on, and I think he's played well. I think Cole Holcomb has played well. And then Quan Alexander, I think, has played outstanding. And honestly, like, this part of the team went from something I was concerned about to something that I think can be pleasantly surprising. Like, I think Cole Holcomb, when we actually get to see him in the season, is going to be pleasantly surprising. I think Layden, same thing. Quan, same thing. Now, with that said, of course, it's not going to be like we got fucking Fred Warner out there. It's not going to be completely locked down, completely fucking no problems at all. But based on what we had last year, based on the problems we were facing last year, it was we could not stop the run. We could not get any push from our linebackers. We could not stop the run. We could not, we couldn't do it. And in the preseason, once again, it is the preseason, so it is what it is. But in the preseason, Layden Roberts was out there flying. Cole Holcomb was out there flying. And so I think those are two people who have earned it. I think Quan Alexander, same thing. But Quan Alexander was a guy, I brought up videos ago before we even signed him, because I knew who he was, and he's been in the league for a little bit. So him flying around playing well, like, isn't really necessarily surprising. The only thing is, like, man, like, why didn't anybody else sign him? Because he's making an impact for us. But maybe our linebacker room was just in such a state that Quan Alexander can come in and just instantly look that good, because we've been watching Miles Jack, Robert Spillane, and Devin Bush not do anything in the run department, And Miles Jack wasn't there for that long. Shout out to him. He just retired. But you know what I mean. Linebacker wasn't really the greatest for us for over a couple of years, so it is what it is. Next, Kenny Robinson. Kenny Robinson is someone I think has played all right, but maybe not really. Maybe not going to make the team, but I think he's played all right. James Pierre. I have some articles up here. I have some articles up here that I am going to talk about, and he's listed on this article, James Pierre. I lost the thing. Where did I go? Where am I? Oh, here we go. James Pierre. James Pierre was getting cooked in this game. James Pierre has not played the greatest in the preseason. And so I got to say it. If he's got to get cut, then it is what it is. However, there is 53 spots on this team. James Pierre has been a member of this team for quite some time. He has his ticket on the bus. He's 4 out of 5 punches away from getting a free t-shirt from Hot Topic. He's been on the team. Steelers, anybody, if you're listening out there, don't cut James Pierre. That's just me. Don't cut James Pierre. I love watching James Pierre play football. He is just the perfect example of the highest of high, lowest of lows. I think I've said that before, but it's true. Watching James Pierre play football makes me think I can go play football someday. Like, he inspires me, because it's like all heart, it's all dog mentality. And a lot of the times it's all 60-yard bombs, and they're wide open because James Pierre couldn't cover them. But like I said, you live and you die with James Pierre, because at the same time he could come in, make a pass deflection, get an interception, make a splash play, and it's James Pierre doing it. And When James Pierre gets a tackle, I swear, don't look this up. Nobody look this up. This is straight off the cuff. But when James Pierre gets a tackle on a drive, or when James Pierre does anything on a drive, I bet those drives typically finish amazing for us. Like when James Pierre gets something, like everybody wakes up. When James Pierre gets a tackle, it's like Cameron Hayward fucking has to get a sack now. When James Pierre gets a fucking tackle, it's like, oh, Minka's getting a pick next play, you know? I swear that's how it happens. And so with that said, if James Pierre has to go, then he has to go. And, you know, Omar Khan, I'm trusting you. But consider this a last plea from me, a last plea from James Pierre to continue to let us be Pittsburgh Steelers. Because James Pierre, I think, is someone who will find his way on another team, and I'm sure he'll do great on another team. I'm sure it'll be another example of, like, guy who wasn't really the greatest for us goes to a different team, and it's like, oh, he's cool, you know? So maybe that'll happen, but I really don't want it to happen, and so I'm campaigning. I'm dying on my sword. I'll die on the hill. If he gives up a Super Bowl if he gives up a touchdown in the Super Bowl to lose us a game, come back to this video, and hey, my bad, guys. But I love James Pierre. We can't get rid of James Pierre. Look at all these guys. Just real quick, I'm going to go through this. Ready? Marcus Golden, new. Quan Alexander, new. Nick Kwiatkowski, not sure, probably new. Eladen Roberts, new. Duke Dawson, maybe new. Chandon Sullivan, second year. Cole Holcomb, new. Armin Watson, not new. Tanner Muse, not new. Okay, but these guys are still kind of like, we're talking about second and third year players if they're not new, right? All that to say, these players are all new. And I get this is a part of growing up. I get it's like, oh, they can't play forever, guys. But fuck, can I just get one Steeler, like, for 3 seasons, please? Can I just, like, one player? Can I have one player to stay on the team? You know, right now we literally have Boswell, Cam Hayward. That's it. And James Pierre. That's it. You look a little bit more forward, then you come in, like, TJ Watt era, I guess. But, you know, other than that, all the players, like, that I was watching as a kid, like, they're just gone, bruh. And James Pierre, I wasn't necessarily a kid when watching him, but James Pierre is somebody who's been on the team for a little bit. Can we please just keep James Pierre, please? Please. Like, I don't want him to get cut. Please, Steelers. If he has to go, then he has to go. And if everybody hates him, then it's whatever. I hate you guys. But shout out to James Pierre, man. Elijah Riley, someone I think is going to make the team. He played well. I think he even got an interception, if I'm not mistaken. Brandon Fehako, I've heard, has played well. Now, as far as him actually making the team, I'm not sure. But you know, it is what it is. I don't want to. I'm gonna save this for the actual roster thing. Let me just go back to actually get into the preseason games here. So I mean, this was the Buccaneers game. We played well. Next, I want to look at the Buffalo game because this was, you know, maybe a little bit more of a challenge from Buffalo. If I can find the box score somewhere in life, here we go. Maybe a little bit more of a challenge from Buffalo, but our offense, you know, just eats. Our offense just does its thing, and this is the game where Jaylen Warren gets that 62-yard touchdown. Kenny Pickett, 3 for 4. Mitch Trubisky, 10 for 13. Okay, so Mitch, you know, just live on the fly because I wasn't really playing this. Mitch Trubisky outplaying Mason in that one. 124 passer rating in first game to 116. So Mason maybe 10 for 13 versus 7 for 12, 132. I didn't necessarily tune into Mitch Trubisky versus Mason Rudolph, but guys, is this something? I mentioned maybe Mason Rudolph is winning the backup spot. Let me know. Is this something right here? Mitch versus Mason, game 1, game 2. So I mean, Mitch looked like he played well. Gunnar Olszewski, this is what I mentioned, 5 receptions, 41 yards. He was out there, you know, on first team. Pat Freiermuth, 25 yards, touchdown. Anthony McFarland, this is receiving stats, but Anthony McFarland played well too. I think we got 3. No, that's in the next game. We got 3 rushing touchdowns. That was in the final game against the Falcons. But Anthony McFarland, he continued to play well. Calvin Austin played well. He even had a good punt return, in which I think Calvin Austin will be a special teams weapon for us. Connor Hayward a touchdown this game. So I mean, and even in this game, like Quan Alexander, I think didn't really play the most, but I remember him on an interception. I believe maybe it was Trenton Thompson, if not Elijah Riley. It was Elijah Riley who got the interception, and then Quan was over there celebrating with him, so that was cool. Patrick Peterson, this was a game in where I saw Patrick Peterson, and to be honest, to full transparency, to tell the truth, it didn't really look the greatest, Patrick Peterson out there. And so, you know, it is with one preseason game, maybe, and I only really watched the first half because if you guys remember, I wanted to record a video, and the video ended up, you know, working out. So I didn't really catch like the later end of it. But Patrick Peterson was somebody who I was thinking maybe a little sus, if that's, you know, disrespectful, my bad. Maybe a little sus. At the same time, we're going to cut James Pierre now too. You know, maybe a little sus. But he's a legend and he's a guy, and so we're not gonna go too hard on Patrick Peterson. What's his name? Joey Porter Jr. I don't know why I said that, but Joey Porter Jr. played in this game, and he also had an interception in this game. Joey Porter Jr. Let me get a gunshot. Joey Porter Jr. is a lockdown corner. Joey Porter Jr. is out here, and below him, we have Nick Herbig. Do you guys see right here? Joey Porter Jr., Nick Herbig. Both of these guys. I don't think I mentioned Nick Herbig yet, but Nick Herbig specifically, he played like a dog this whole preseason. Joey Porter Jr. too, our second round pick. He played great, interception. But we got to talk about Nick Herbig again, because Nick Herbig, he's phenomenal. He's played phenomenal, and we talked about him playing against backups, but he technically fourth, fifth round pick. He technically is a backup too, right? Like he's just not a backup in the preseason, but in the regular season he's a backup. And so him playing against his peers, like he's dominating his peers, and so he's somebody I think is going to be making a big impact. I think he's somebody who is going to maybe even get some first team snaps. He's going to be involved a lot in the regular season as we rotate out TJ Watt, as we rotate out Alex Highsmith. I think Nick Herbig is going to be a guy, and you couple that with Marcus Golden as another edge rusher, and our edge rushing department, it's deep, it's fast, it's elite. So Nick Herbig, a fantastic player, great preseason out of him. Joey Porter Jr., once again, shout out to you. I don't see him on here, but I do want to bring up Keanu Benton. Keanu Benton, I believe, played pretty well too. I don't see him on here again. Maybe he's on this one. But Keanu Benton is somebody I believe played very, very well. Good pick out of us. And our D-line is back too. Like, not only is our linebackers back, but I think our D-line is back. DeMarvin Leal, I think our D-line is here. DeMarvin Leal, he played well. James Pierre, once again, shout out to him. Please don't cut James Pierre. And then lastly, we have this Atlanta Falcons game. And 24-0, this was our last preseason game. 24-0, blew them out. We played our starters. They played their backups. You've heard the stories. However, our offense once again looked fantastic. Our offense once again lit up the fucking scoreboard, lit up the whole world. Anthony McFarland once again lit up everything in life. And we looked like a valuable offense. We looked like an offense that's going to score the ball. And really, really just overall points of the preseason, I think, like, just no stats, no gameplay, no, nothing, just final takeaways. As I've mentioned, our offense looked, great. And I don't see how we play this preseason right and then me having a take of our offense is going to play better this season. Like, that shouldn't be a crazy take. Our offense is going to play better this year, just off rip. Now, as far as how much better and when it actually matters, we'll see. But just improvement stats, like if our offense played at a 40% last year, if that was our grade, a D-, right? If our offense is a 40% last year, we can get it up to at least a C, right? This year, like, it's at least a C+, right? At bare minimum, default Steelers hater, like it's a C, right? And so with that said, if it's a C, round them up a little bit. Why not a B? Why not a B? And if it's already a B, why can't it be an A? We got Allen Robinson. His name starts with A. Why can't it be an A? And so there's a real chance that our offense is an A. But just my takeaways, I think our offense looked well. It played well. And so for me to think our offense is going to play well in the regular season shouldn't be crazy, right? So there's that. And then our defense, like, our offense played well in our run game, I think really, really is spooky. And we'll maybe talk about that a little bit more in a second. But our run game is spooky. But our defense, like, was flying around out there. And maybe in the secondary, it's a little spooky, and we didn't get the greatest of comparisons because, Atlanta, they're playing backups. But our secondary looks like it's capable of making plays, and you couple that with a D-line who's notoriously been, elite, notoriously has been TJ Watt out there, Cam Hayward out there, Nick Herbig, not Nick Herbig, but Alex Highsmith, Bud Dupree, even. Like, we've been getting to the quarterback. We've been getting the sacks, right? We've been putting these numbers up. But now with improvements in the linebacker department, now with maybe more, not necessarily lockdown corners, but maybe more splash playmakers, maybe more, interception ball hawking skills. Like, hey man, I'm excited. I really just don't think that's such a hot take to be excited. I really don't think it's that crazy of a take. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. And because it's episode 24 and it's before the preseason, who knows, maybe in 3 months, this will just get buried, this take. But There is a real chance, though, our offense could play better than our defense this year. There is a real chance that our offense is so good enough that, like, we don't even talk about our defense anymore. And, you know, it's been the steel curtain. It's been TJ Watt and Cam and sacks and interceptions and turnovers and Mike Tomlin fucking pointing in the camera. It's been that, right? But maybe, just maybe, like, if we can just score, Kenny literally did not have a drive this preseason and where he didn't score, right? And so every time Kenny was on the field, he scored. And so you take that logic and you take that into the regular season and you forget everything about the NFL and you just off those stats. He should just keep scoring touchdowns, right? And if we just keep scoring touchdowns, boom, 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 and this is all brand newish to us because, you know, we're far removed from the Killer B era. This is going to be brand new. This is going to be what we're all talking about. It's going to be the Pickett to Pickens connection. And we won't even really care that our defense, once again, is solid because our offense is just going to be so new, so fresh, so exciting that's going to be where we're focusing on. That's where we're going to be hype about. This is all dependent on Matt Canada, too, by the way. This is all dependent on you. And I'm saying a lot of nice things, Matt Canada. And you don't make me look stupid, please. And so I think there's a real chance for that to happen. I think there's a real chance our offense becomes, not yet, but it's right there, you know, like it shouldn't be as crazy as it has been. And just overall point, I think losing players like Terrell Edmonds, I think losing players like Cameron Sutton, I think that's going to end up hurting. And I think it's going to make our defense fall just enough to where it's actually attainable for our offense to be, you know, the talking point of the team. But really, we're talking about a 99 overall defense and a 99 overall offense. And so it's apples and apples. It's apples to oranges. You know, it's beautiful. It's a nice smoothie, and I'm drinking it. Pause. Now, as I mentioned, I did have this article up. It's from Steelers Now, from Nick Farbaugh. Shout out to him. Shout out to this website. It's 3 Steelers who could be surprise cuts. And just real quick, I see this on my right. I'm going to pull this up real quick. Steelers release hyper athletic wide receiver. So we signed this Aaron Cruikshank guy, and he did get cut. So rest in peace. However, but this is what I mean, like with cuts happening, it's live on the fly. And so, you know, we're in this phase now where we're going to lose players. And with the thumbnail of this, the guy maybe on the outs is James Pierre. And so let's see what Nick has to say. Pierre is the one player the Steelers do not have direct in-house replacement for. So it's a given that he makes the roster, but the replacement could come from outside the team on waivers. Pierre has struggled mightily so far this preseason and at this training camp. The one thing he has going for him is proven production on the field in the past. Proven production on field in the past. Proven production on field in the past. Proven production on field in the past. That's what I want to highlight. I highlighted it. Guys, James Pierre, granted, it's not always roses or whatever with James Pierre, but this is somebody who's been on the team. We've seen him play, and we've been a pretty good defense with James Pierre out there on the field. If a guy is going to be the cornerback 4 on the outside, Pierre has admirably filled in for the cornerback injuries in the past. And so pretty much James Pierre is good depth, right? But if the Steelers find someone they like better on the waiver or trading wire block, outside cornerback feels like a spot outside of the backup center that the Steelers could add someone onto the roster late in the process. Pierre will make the initial roster, I am confident in that. However, he could be one of those players cut on a day or two later once the waiver wire becomes clearer. So one more gunshot there for James Pierre. So Nick thinks James Pierre is going to initially make the team, but then maybe as like maybe a surprise corner gets cut, we get rid of James Pierre. And so really overall point is James Pierre, we like you and we'll keep you around and, you know, you're good, but if we find someone better, there you go. Like, it's just so fucked up to James Pierre, but man, y'all are sleeping. Y'all are sleeping on James Pierre, man. James, if you see this, just know I was campaigning hard for you, James, and I want James Pierre on the team. So shout out to him. Zach Gentry, I talked about Zach Gentry. I haven't seen it. Miles Kilbrew on here too. I didn't look at this whole thing, but I did wanted to point out the James Pierre thing. But Zach Gentry, let's see what Gentry is a sleeper in this scenario, and the fact that he's dealing with an injury probably makes this more unlikely. But most people have it taken for a given the Steelers will throw 4 tight ends on their roster. Darnell Washington's creeped up into Gentry's playing time, and at this point, Gentry is probably in line to be a game day inactive. He has great depth and insurance in case of injuries, but the Steelers have another young tight end in Rodney Williams who had a fantastic summer. Rodney Williams, I did not mention you. Rodney Williams, not gonna lie, hey man, Nick Farbaugh, he's Steelers now. He's a Steelers guy. Rodney Williams, I didn't even consider you. But Rodney Williams, maybe that's why Zach Gentry can't make the team. He had a fantastic summer. Williams grew tremendously from his rookie season into the second year in the league. He spent most of last year on the practice squad, but Williams came into the league as one of the more vertical threats as a tight end. Now he can block his behind off and bring special teams value. Williams could be a surprise addition to make this roster, and Gentry could be off, but I'm still leaning towards Gentry making the team. And so I talked about Gentry in the beginning, but I didn't even bring up Rodney Williams because one, I didn't really think that was a factor. But I mean, just once again, just another piece. And he didn't talk about Connor Hayward maybe because he's like listed fullback, but Connor Hayward also does a lot of tight end things, and so Zach Gentry just I think Zach Gentry at his position is better than James Pierre at his position. But I think it's kind of the same kind of situation going on here where he's not like the number one guy. He's not the number one tight end. And he's solid, but maybe not solid enough that somebody else's upside doesn't outweigh it. You know, Rodney Williams in the blocking department has grown, and now he's maybe a little bit of a better pass catcher than Zach Gentry. You know, maybe that's a thing. And so with that said, Zach Gentry, you know, maybe you're on the outs. But I like Zach Gentry too. I like to keep him around. However, I think he's good enough to warrant more playtime on a different team, to warrant more production on another team. And so for the sake of everything, I hope Zach Gentry gets another opportunity on a different team. James Pierre, though, James Pierre can stay on the Steelers and never play, and that's like the perfect world for me. So there's that. Final looks at the depth chart here. Of course, you know, I'm not going to go super through it, but, you know, Deontay's going to make the team. Battle between Dan Moore and Broderick Jones has I guess, concluded since the preseason is over. Dan Moore, I believe, will continue being the left tackle starting. And, you know, I've heard all of the you know, we're playing some pretty good edge rushers early. And so Dan Moore, a veteran out there, you throw him out there so you don't kill Broderick Jones's confidence. You know, I've been told a lot of things before by the Steelers and their organization. I was told Mitchell Trubisky was the veteran and he needs to be the quarterback because Kenny Pickett needs to learn, and then we throw him in week 3 when he's been playing with third stringers all practice, and then we do that. So I've heard the Steelers tell me things and try to get me to trust in things. You know, this is another situation in where maybe I'm not necessarily vibing it, but this is what they're telling me, and, you know, I'm a soldier and we roll. So we're rolling with Dan Moore. We're rocking with Dan Moore. And Dan Moore, for these first 3 weeks, you keep blocking, man. You do your thing because we need you. And Broderick Jones, he's been improving. He's shown that he in the run game, Broderick Jones is a real problem, but it's pass blocking really where it's kind of sus right now, and that's why Dan Moore is out there. You also got a young quarterback in Kenny Pickett. Don't want to get him murked. So Dan Moore continues to be out there. But Broderick Jones, I think, has shown improvement, has shown production in this preseason, and I think eventually he'll take over that left tackle spot. And Dan Moore may be playing well enough to come down to this right tackle spot for Chukuma Okorafor. I don't know, Dan Moore or Chukuma, let me know. But there's that Isaac Semaleo guy we got from the Eagles. He's fucking amazing. Mason Cole. Kendrick Green is cooked. Kendrick Green, I think, is done, unfortunately. If he makes the team, then it is what it is, but I think Kendrick Green is done. We talked about that in the Steelers Now article with the potential backup center being a question mark. So, you know, we'll see about that. But Kendrick Green, I think, is done. It is what it is. I think all of our Naj, Jalen Warren, and McFarland will all make the team. Here we go back to the tight ends. What I was talking about with Connor Hayward. Like, he's listed tight end, and he's also listed third string tight end, listed, you know, first string fullback. This is just another reason is maybe Zach Gentry, he comes out, we move Connor, boom, we move Darnell, boom, and we move Rodney, boom, and then, you know, it is what it is. Maybe that happens, but Connor is definitely going to make the team. Gunnar Olszewski is someone who I think maybe was a question mark, probably makes the team after what we've seen. And then on defense, I've already kind of gone over it, but our linebackers played well. Cole Holcomb, Quan, Layden. Mark Robinson, I think, played well, but we did end up having to replace him. I think he still makes the team as I bring him up in full screen. I think he still makes the team. James Pierre, we talked about maybe being on the outs. I really hope not, but it is what it is if he does. Nickel corner. This right here was a pretty big battle, and right now I still believe it's kind of a mix of Chandon and Elijah Riley. Now, will only one of them make the team? I'm not sure. Maybe we release somebody else. Maybe we release, you know, a James Pierre. But you know, I think they both played well, and this is going to be a kind of a coin flip situation. Maybe we keep them both. I don't know. And also, Joey Porter Jr., I believe he's on here as like a backup. And maybe this was just for the preseason game, but I think I saw Joey Porter Jr. listed as like the right corner, listed as like the starting right corner. And then maybe Patrick Peterson slides down into like the nickel kind of guy, or slides down into the slot. I swear I seen something like that. And so maybe this isn't necessarily right. Maybe what I saw wasn't right. But there definitely is a situation for that. Going up, DeMonte Casey, Keanu Neal at the safety department. Of course, Terrell Edmonds was there. I think they played all right. Trenton Thompson even getting an interception over here. I think he played well. And on the Steelers Now article, I didn't read the Miles Killebrew part. But I think Trenton Thompson playing well / DeMonte Casey and Keanu Neal also playing well kind of has Miles Killebrew on the outs, and so it is what it is. But this is a position that I still think Terrell Edmonds should be the guy, but since he's not, we'll see. KZ was a guy for us, but I believe kind of dealing with injury right now. But KZ was a guy for us. He played well when called upon last year, and so if we're throwing him out there, then hey, it's lit. But to me, still a question mark, still a if somebody falls in the draft next year pretty high, maybe we take a safety pretty high as like a head scratcher move, but really we need it and really could be the final piece to this defense, like a Jordan Battle or something Branch. Somebody Branch last year that I was really Brian Branch, I believe his name was. I forget who took him, but he was kind of falling, and I think the Steelers were thinking about it. He was kind of falling, and I think maybe we would have pulled the trigger if he was there. So maybe we run it back next draft. We'll see. But for now, KZ, Neal, Thompson, maybe Killebrew. You guys are the guys, man. Special teams. I didn't watch this punter battle, guys. Let me know in the comments who won the punter battle between Presley Harvin and Brandon Mann. It's really important. I don't mean to just glance over it, but I just got to tell you the truth. I really don't know. And so, hey, who won this battle, guys? Please let me know. Boswell, the guy, got the jersey on. Shout out to Boz. BT Potter, you did your thing, but there can only be one Wizard of Boz, so it is what it is. And then just last, Calvin Austin listed as the kick return, punt return. Really needs to happen, really needs to continue doing that. However, he is also a big contributor on offense. He also does a lot of things for us on offense, especially in that preseason. And so if Gunnar Olszewski can just not fucking fumble it, and be the Pro Bowl guy that we signed, and Calvin Austin, granted, is faster, granted, maybe is a little better, but can help us more on the actual wide receiving portion of it, then, maybe that's the best case scenario. Because I remember a few years ago, we even had like Deontay out there returning kicks. And then at the same time, he was like our leading receiver. And it's like, it works out a lot. And, we had players like, I can't think of his name, but there was somebody on the Saints, I believe, or on the Bears who, Devin Hester. There it is. Devin Hester. Like he's like a guy. And maybe wide receiver wasn't like the number one, but still a pretty big contributor. Like I feel like that story doesn't really happen. Like typically the return guys are return guys, and aren't really the called upon guy in the receiving department. Now you've seen Tyreek Hill, have that where he's a return guy, punt return guy, and then also the number one receiver. But to me, you don't want that. You don't want your number one receiver to maybe be punt returning, and then he gets hurt on punt return, and now you don't have your number one receiver for the whole game. And so I think Gunnar Olszewski, to me, in an ideal world, he does that. Calvin Austin, he just is a wide receiver. But if Calvin Austin is elite at punt return, kick return, and wide receiver, and much better than Gunnar, and he can just do it all, never get hurt, Calvin Austin, you can continue doing that, and I will shut the fuck up. It's just that it's that kind of situation. And to close it out, I wanted to give a more updated look on the schedule. I kind of wanted to talk about the games again. Now that we have a preseason, now we have a little bit more answers to the teams. And to be honest, I've been very humble when I've said the Steelers takes. I've been very humble. If you go to the Ascent Sports page on YouTube, let me just kind of pull up YouTube over here. If you go to the Ascent Sports page, I'm going to just live and do this on the fly. Go subscribe. We're doing all the record predictions, right? And I've even done our record prediction in this video, or on these podcasts, like a more updated version, right? And so this 10-7 right here is different than I believe the record prediction I had on the Zaya&TheSteelers channel. But I'm just pulling this up just for apples and oranges. And as you can see, 10-7, very fair in my opinion. Bengals sweeping us, very fair in my opinion. Like, that's me being the humblest of humble, And so with that said, now that I've seen everything, and now I've seen other people predict us to go to the playoffs, I've seen other people be surprised and pleasantly shocked by us going to the playoffs, I'm going to get my shit off, and I'm going to really tell you guys how I feel. Because once again, gotta save face, gotta be fair, gotta be objective for the NFL page and all that. But fuck that. We're Steelers fans. 49ers week 1, I'm still maybe a loss to the 49ers week 1. But there's a real chance we win this game. Like, I really think we'll win this game. And I think all of our questions will be answered this first game. If we just come out stinking against a very, very, very good defense, granted. But if we just come out and we look like ass, then we'll probably continue to be ass. But if we If it's a close one, if we have that week 1 Steelers thing and maybe we sneak out with a W, then this could be something. Now, week 2 against the Browns, we're winning this game. We're going to win this game against the Browns. Really, I don't have much to say about the Browns besides like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, their backup quarterback, playing well, guy from UCLA. He's playing well. Maybe he's better than Deshaun Watson, quarterback controversy in Cleveland. I don't know. But there's that. The Raiders, so yeah, win. And right now, objectively 1-1. The Raiders, maybe, but I just I don't know. It's one of those situations where I'm not a Raiders fan, and so I can just kind of sleep on them. And from on paper, like Jimmy G is a guy, I guess, and Devontae Adams is still a guy, and you got Josh Jacobs back. And so maybe it's a thing. But if at August 27th, after watching us sweep the preseason, at August 27th, 4 p.m., you want me to predict the Raiders beating us? I'm not going to do it. It's not happening. And so 2-1 to this point. Texans, 3-1 to this point. Ravens, 4-1 to this point, because this is our home game. I'm going to split it with Baltimore. That's really fair for me to split it with Baltimore. But I'm going to do it. So 4-1 at this point. Bye week, we're 4-1 at the bye. And 4-1 at the bye, stop being a hater, guys. 4-1 at the bye is very possible. 4-1 at the bye is not crazy. And that's with me giving San Francisco a loss. Maybe the Raiders are a loss. Maybe Cleveland. Maybe Baltimore. But I'm really confident in this Texans game. We should win this. But 4-1 at the bye. I'm a Steelers fan. I got the jersey on. It is what it is. The Rams, 5-1. Maybe the Rams are a bit more shock or maybe a bit more spooky than what people have been letting on. Maybe they're, not this whack-ass team with an old-ass quarterback and all that, and, they traded all their picks. Now they have nothing, and maybe they should trade Aaron Donald to the Steelers. Maybe they're not this team, but I'm saying it. We're going to win this. We're going to win this game, and that's 5-1. Jacksonville, I'll be fair. Jacksonville's on the up and up. I fucking hate the Jaguars. But just for shits and giggles, I will give us this loss. 5-2, 6-2. Wait, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5-2. We lose to the 49ers, lose to the Jaguars. We're 5-2 up to this point, right? Looking down, Tennessee, 6-2. 6-2. I hate the Titans. The Titans maybe could beat us, but unless we're playing just the worst brand of football, this is all dependent on our offense showing up. And up to this point, I think our offense is showing up. And so our offense will continue to show up. And unless Derrick Henry can Derrick Henry, which I'm sure he can, and our defense just can't stop him at all whatsoever. They have 4 quarterbacks on the team, and they don't know which one is playing. Ryan Tannehill maybe is going to play, and if not, it's going to be Malik Willis. And if not for him, it's going to be Will Levis. And I like our chances against all 3 of them. And so that's 6-2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6-2, 6-2 up to this point. Packers. In the Ascent Sports video, I gave this to the Packers. I'm giving this to us this time. That's 7-2. Cleveland, we'll split it, 7-3. Bengals, we'll split it, 7-4. Arizona, 8-4, because Arizona is literally tanking, guys. Arizona, there's nothing going on. By week 13, who knows is going to be their quarterback? 8-4. New England, we lost last year. New England seems to have our number. They've always had our number. However, we really should have won that game. We really should have won that game. If we could have just stopped them at the end of that, we get that win. Because they literally ran it out and then ran out the clock. They got a first down and then just sat on it. Just unbelievable Patriot way winning. But I'm gonna give us that win to this point. So I kind of forget. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, no, I'm sorry, 7, 8. Now, okay, so 9 wins. So we're 9-1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 9-4 at this point. Okay, 9-4 against the Colts. We haven't lost to the Colts in a century. 10-4. Bengals again. I listen, man. Can we get 1 win against the Bengals, please? 11-4. Seahawks are on the up and up. They have a great running game. Geno Smith maybe, but just at this very point in life, if it's down to me predicting the Seahawks win or the Steelers get to 12 wins on the season, I'm supposed to just say the Seahawks are going to beat us? Objectively, why? They have Tariq Woolen on defense. They have some pieces on defense. Run game, we talked about Kenneth Walker. They got Geno Smith. They got weapons galore in Metcalf, Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So maybe, but I don't know. Fuck, I'll give us a loss. And then fuck it, I'll have us losing to Baltimore too. Either way, that's 11 wins and that 11 real probable wins. The loss to the Seahawks is a little humble for me, a little, maybe, but we could win that game too. We could we could sweep Baltimore. Baltimore maybe could sweep us, but we could sweep Baltimore. We could sweep Cleveland. We could, I don't know if we're going to sweep the Bengals, but we could. We could. And then the games that I have us losing off rip that aren't our division opponents, the 49ers, they're the listed number one NFL team. They're the listed Super Bowl favorites. And so I'm being humble. But, 3-0 in the preseason, haven't not scored a touchdown with our first team offense. Like, I'm sorry if I'm not fucking losing sleep when we're playing the 49ers week 1. Like, I'm confident in my team. So there's that. And then the Jacksonville, they're on the up and up, but I mean, we've been stomping them. They got us in that playoff game, but ever since we got our revenge, we've been beating them. And I don't know, our defense is dogs. And so, like, it's not like there's no way you see this Jacksonville Steelers matchup, and unless you're a Jacksonville fan or a Steelers hater, you just chalk it up instantly to Jacksonville, There is a slight delay. Like, it's not like it's the Texans versus the Chiefs on the schedule, and you're just like, oh, W to the Chiefs because it's the Chiefs. To me, I think we're in comparable situations right now. And so there's that loss. Who else did I say that we maybe were going to lose to? I think it was just division opponents at this point. Like, really, our only losses are to maybe division opponents, and then the 49ers, maybe Jacksonville, and fucking Green Bay, the Tennessee, New England, because they've beaten us before. This is what Seahawks, like, this is what I mean. Even the games that, like, we should lose aren't even the craziest. It's not like we got 49ers, Eagles, Bills, Chiefs, on the schedule. Like, we've had that before, but this year, that's really not the case, man. It's not. The Rams, maybe they come back. Maybe they're spooky, but I just, with our schedule, with the improvements we've made, with our offense being maybe like that, with Kenny Pickett maybe being like that, with Naj and Jalen and all this, I really think all the cards are in our favor. I really think we're having some great-ass luck right now. And so with all of that said, I had us at 10-7 in the video. I think 10 through 13 wins. Like, I think 10 through 13, maybe you move it 9 through 12. Like, I think that is the range that we're going to be at. And we'll see what the other AFC contenders, the AFC is kind of loaded. We'll see if that actually ends up, being a record that can get you somewhere. But I really think that's possible. And with that said, too, we don't really give a fuck about the regular season at this point. We're a young team. And so we're trying to improve. We're trying to do our thing. We're trying to show signs. But really, the goal is a playoff win. And whatever it takes to get that, whether it's 9 wins, 8 wins, 10 wins, 13 wins, 12 wins, like whatever record it has to take, whatever record we need to get that, then, then get that. But I think it's possible. I think we're on the up and ups. And I think this schedule is very favorable for us. And so, hindsight, I was humble in that video. But I'm not humble now. And the Steelers are going to win 11 or 12 games this year. Because look at the schedule. Look at the schedule and then look at me. How are we not going to win 11 games with this schedule? To me. So, that's the final point. We'll talk more about the games as we get closer to the season. We're one more week of no football left. And then for the next, however, 20, 30 weeks, it's going to be all football all the way. And so we're coming down to it. We're coming down for these takes to finally mean something. We're coming down to is this you? And then it's me predicting us to win the Super Bowl and we win 3 games out of the schedule. It's coming down to it. And so I'm going to get these last takes out. I'm going to get my shit off one more time before it actually starts. Shout out to Brendan for making this schedule. Real quick, let's throw some shots at Brendan though. Like, is this yellow? Is this really a Steelers yellow? With all that said, guys, I think that is going to do it for me for this podcast episode. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. If you're still here to this point, then 1, shout out to you. 2, check out this video on the screen now. 3, this is the greatest outro ever because I'm not going to mess it up. If you know, I've messed up like 8 outros in a row. This one is going to not be messed up. It's going to be perfect. And anyways, guys, this has been Zaya from Zaya and the Steelers. And I will see you in the next episode or in the next video. Peace out.